dollars make the world go round, and it's always been a big business in college sports. And so, this time is definitely long overdue. And when you talk about like having food to eat, I remember in my group chats from a lot of my Michigan friends, we always jokingly say they used to give us these things that we used to call chits. And basically a chit is like a meal voucher for like a local restaurant. Each meal voucher was worth $15. And it was a few local restaurants on campus. And then like the big one for us was Outback Steakhouse. So like we would collectively like pull of all of our meal vouchers together and eat like kings at Outback every once in a while. But it's come such a long way, man, because I think back to those times, and it's interesting because when I think back at those times, I didn't feel like I missed out on anything, or I didn't feel like necessarily like I was lacking in any area, whether that be financially, whether that be from a meal standpoint, et cetera. And I'm just speaking about my experience, and not to kind of dim the light and also take away from the importance of athletes getting paid, but this is just due, right? And I think this is very, very important to just kind of level set when we do talk about like the evolution of sports, the evolution of the athlete. Like, just because things were a certain way back then doesn't necessarily mean that they were right. And also, just because the things were a certain way and I was comfortable and I still made it work doesn't justify it anymore. And I definitely don't want to be the old guy that don't like, back in my day, we made it off of $15, et cetera. So it's been a long time coming. I'm excited to kind of see where this kind of takes shape, but really just thinking about like, what are some of the benefits, not necessarily from an athlete standpoint, but how are schools thinking about this? Penn State versus a smaller school, even like a Pitt, right? Like that may not be as well resourced. Like, how are some of these schools thinking about it?
I think now when you bring in a budget and like some level of a salary cap, now you're talking about losing the financial flexibility that you've always had, right? Now that financial flexibility is gone based on the assets or the evaluations that you're doing, you have to have a lot of quality control on the operation in football, I think, or in every sport, because now you have to account for that money that you're spending. I had breakfast with Kevin Colbert a couple months ago, and we were talking about like that meeting when they had a draft pick and you had that dead money on the table and you had to go meet with the Rooneys about, hey, what went wrong in this conversation? That's a conversation that has never happened in college sports. So when we talk about athletes coming up, like, yo, you're a teenager, but like you're a true asset that's going into this ecosystem, and how you're going to be evaluated is going to start to shift into a more pro-like model, right? And like a predictability of how well and how much value you're going to have on the team, that value and exposure that you provide, and really preparing them for the business. We talk about that, but like earlier, to be equipped to take advantage of all the different opportunities that are there. So like, I think when you look at the different teams, you got to look at them developing a philosophy and operating, how they're assessing value, what their team philosophy is, and like finding the right people that fit within that. Because the key to look for it in this day and age is going to be stability. We talk about that, but like earlier, to be equipped to take advantage of all the different opportunities that are there.